Hi guys. So I'm starting a new series on my YouTube channel called, I don't know what I'll name it yet, probably something like beginner chess coaching, something boring like that. And basically I'm just going to go over various lower level, lower rated players' games and provide some coaching. I don't know why I did the air quotes, but I did the air quotes because I'm only, well, I guess I'll show you here for those of you that haven't watched me previously. Let me just go. So I'm not a titled player or anything like that. Let me do the full screen share here. 1 second. I'll get this all set up here. Okay, and I think I want a little bit. Okay, well, let me zoom in here a little bit. So my username on Lead Chess is always Dizzy. My Twitch username is Modulus the Gamer. So on Lead Chess, I am rated. So I'm not super high rated. I'm not a titled player, as I said. I'm not even 2000, but I'm currently 1940 rapid on Lead Chess. My bullet is 1942, 1833 on Blitz, 1724 on classical. So my classical, I don't know why it's really low right now, but so I'm not a super high rated player, but that's also why I'm going to be limiting these videos will be based on other players rated probably like 1400 and below, around there or so, because I'm not super high rated myself, but I do believe I can still provide value and advice to people at that level. So I reached out on Reddit asking for some people that might want some videos done, and I got a couple of responses. So I'm just going to take a quick look at who I'm going to start off with here. Looks like the first one is somebody named Tallpawnsyndrome. So let's take a look at his or her games. Okay, so let me just change my screen here. Okay, so Tallpawnsyndrome doesn't have very many games played, about 600 puzzles done though. And okay, so let's take a look at probably a classical game. I like to look at the longer time controls. It shows that they had more time to think. So they are provisionally rated, and they're about 1150 on rapid. So kind of a lower echelon of skill here. And let's just take a look at a game here. So let's take a look at, so this is 35 moves. So let's just take a look at this game here. So this is a 30 and 15. This was a casual game. So the first thing that I would recommend is to not play casual. So that's the first thing I would recommend. I would recommend to, first of all, it's good that you're playing classical. I would stick with playing classical. The longer the time control you play, generally the better it is for your improvement, because it gives you more time to think. And you can really think about your moves and calculate things more and not just rush to decisions. And as I said, I would advise against playing casual. That's just my own personal idea, but the reason behind that is there's a few reasons. The main one is that in casual, people are very casual. They're not playing very seriously. Someone might just be like eating lunch and just or taking care of their kids, babysitting, and just making a move and going off, stirring a pot or making some coffee and then make another move and watching TV. Your opponents aren't really paying seriously in many cases, so they might be dropping a queen here or there. It's not like a more serious game. Also, when you're playing casual, you're not able to track your progress over time because you won't have a rating. So I would always recommend that everybody always plays a rated game. If that is too intimidating for you, well, you kind of just have to get over that. I mean, it's no big deal if you're going to lose points, right? Everyone loses points, but I just personally don't believe in that casual games are good in any case. My dad plays classical game. I'm sorry, casual games. My dad plays casual games, and I don't. I don't agree with it. I just think people aren't playing seriously, and you're not going to get in as many high quality games in casual mode. Okay, so that being said, let's get going here. So tall pawn syndrome is black. Just checking how long this recording is. I guess it doesn't show me how long my recording is when I'm not actually streaming. It's a little annoying, but okay. Okay, so e5, d4. So both players here are provisionally rated, so it's kind of hard to comment on that aspect. Okay, so black played f6 here, and this is already on move 2, a mistake. I do have the engine here to consult, but this is a pretty obvious mistake regardless. The point is that generally the F file is very weak for the king if the pawns on the F files are removed or moved early in the game, because it exposes the king. So the king already has these light squares here are kind of open for the king. It's less shelter for your king. So generally moving the F pawn is not a good idea, especially in the opening. You want to be protecting your king. So your idea was to protect your E pawn on E5 here against the D4 threat, which is a fine idea, but it would be much better to move your D pawn that's in front of your queen. Your king is still protected with your F pawn on F7 here, and at the same time you open up the scope of your light squared bishop, and you're helping support your pawn here. So d6 would have been a much better option here, although you might even just want to take. But yeah, if you wanted to support the pawn, you really want to avoid moving your F pawn. And that's a general rule. It's not, nothing is, there's always exceptions. But yeah, so this move is very weakening. But let's move on. Okay. It's not a bad move, but you might want to focus on the simple developing principles, developing your minor pieces here. That may be something that you might want to consider. So maybe like a knight c6 idea, but this is not a terrible move. I'm not going to be nitpicking every single move because at this level there's no point to be doing that. Okay, so you develop a knight. It's not the worst move in the world, but you may have wanted to reconsider moving the knight in front of the queen. Just the idea being that by moving here, you are limiting the scope of your bishop, which means that you're going to have to move the knight again, which this is not a bad spot for the knight, but you are going to have to move this knight twice now before you can develop this bishop. I guess there is the argument that you might want it to go here to fianchetto. So this isn't really, it's not the worst move in the world, but simply knight c6 may have been better. White could respond here, but then white might be overextending. That's getting a little bit advanced though. But just what I want to mention here is that this, you just want to consider that when you make a move like this, you are limiting the scope of other pieces. Your bishop cannot move now with the knight there. Okay, so you go knight b6, which I do like, because since you did move here, you are freeing up the bishop now, so at least you did have a plan. So I do like that. I do like that move. Here, generally, and it depends on the position, but generally with each piece having a material value, such as a pawn being 1, a queen being 9, a rook being 5, Generally, bishops are very slightly stronger than knights. There are exceptions, such as if the position is kind of closed, then knights are generally slightly better than bishops. So it always depends on the situation, but in general, bishops are a little more valuable than a knight. You could say maybe 3.25 value versus a knight of 3. So because of that, since white moved his queen to d3 here, you may want to consider trading, taking the bishop, because that's a pretty good trade for black. You're getting his bishop for your knight, so that's a move I would definitely consider. Stockfish is agreeing with me at the moment, but you played queen e7. Also, the other thing here is, even if you don't take, I would probably recommend, again, the basic principle of developing your minor pieces. Excuse me. So you might want, if you wanted to castle queenside, then you might want to maybe move your bishop out somewhere, even here, or move this knight out. You might want to develop your minor pieces here. But really, I think just taking the bishop would be the best move here. Okay, c6 looks like you may be trying for like a d5 idea. So what I don't really like about c6 is, again, you're not developing your minor pieces. That's something you really need to strive to be doing early on in the game, just a basic principle. And that's, again, assuming that you don't just take the bishop right away, which I think is still fine here. But again, just developing a minor piece, I think, would be pretty good here. Let's move on. Yeah, so there's you missed a free pawn here. Something else I wanted to mention is that on your clock here, so there's a 15-second increment, but we're on move 8, and the position is it's not super simple. There's some stuff going on, and you actually have 27 minutes, 27 and a half minutes, which means you've only used 2.5 minutes so far. 30 minutes is a pretty long time control. So I would recommend that you need to slow down a little bit, because you're on move 8 and you only use 2.5 minutes. It would be useful to slow down some more and think a little bit longer on your moves before you make them, because you have a lot of time still. So you're moving a little too fast here. Okay, this looks good. Okay, so you just drop your queen by going here. Obviously, white's queen can simply retake. I'm just going to check I'm checking your time. So I'm just looking at your time on the right hand side here. So 25 minutes. You used 5 minutes so far. So let's see how long you thought on this move. It's hard to tell because of the increment. I'm not sure if that if that applies, but assuming it doesn't apply, you only spent 6 seconds on this move. And so at this level, at your level, you're around 1100. I would really recommend you gotta use your time. Time is a resource, right? So if you're spending 6 seconds on a move, you have no excuse to blunder. So you really need to be taking longer. And then if you simply take longer, so when you make a move and you just make sure it can't be recaptured, because at your level, at 1100, players are going to be dropping pieces left and right. And you can't be dropping pieces. Like, once you stop dropping pieces, you're going to jump like 200 points just by not hanging pieces. If you just don't hang pieces, you'll probably jump 200 points to like 1300. So when you make a move, even though it seems super basic, it looks like you wanted to attack the rook. You have to just make sure that it can't be recaptured, because there's really no excuse for dropping a piece. I mean, it's going to happen when you're lower rated, but when I say there's no excuse, I mean it's very simple to check against. So it's very simple to see if a piece can capture your piece for nothing. So you just have to be more cognizant of that and just move slower, be more careful. Okay, so this is a important thing to note. Even though Stockfish here is saying that taking with either rook is about the same, it's hard to disagree with Stockfish, but I would disagree here. To me, it just makes a lot more sense to take with the H rook here. By taking with your rook, your rook on the E file, you're giving up control of this file, even though it's kind of closed here with the knight here. You're taking this rook off of the file, which means you're going to have to waste a tempo or a move in the future to kind of go back to it. And it just makes a lot more sense to move to capture the knight with your other rook. You want to be controlling this file, so you don't want to be moving off of it only to have to move back again in the future. So even moves like this, it really matters how you take a piece. So just be aware of that. Okay, so you kind of missed a threat here. Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of hard because this is being attacked too. But this square, this D6 square is being attacked, and that seems like a more dangerous square. It's saying Stockfish is recommending recommending the other knight here, but so I mean this move here, it's kind of hard because you're already in a tough position. It's hard when you're down a queen. But this square is the first thing I look at. It's more scary to me than even white taking on on G7 here. So I would be very scared of this square here. Yeah, and it's hard for me to comment too much here because black is already down so much. There's not really all that much that black can be done here. There is you're missing a mate in 2 after this rook move because of check, and then looks maybe is it here? No, it looks like right. No, actually, that's slower. It looks like this might be mate because it opens up the rook. So that's mate there. But as I say, there's not really too much that can really effectively be done here. Stockfish is recommending knight f4, but it's pretty much toast here. So to recap on this game, slow down a little bit because you were moving quite quick. At the end of the game here, you still had 20 minutes left. I skipped ahead so to move 35. You still had 20 minutes left in a 30-minute game. If you're going to play longer time controls, use all of your time. Overall, you didn't do too bad on the clock. Like a lot of beginners will just move way quicker than you did. But slow down a little bit. You have a lot of time. You have to use that resource. Secondly, this F pawn, you don't want to be moving that. You don't want to be moving that pawn. So even if you're white, if we flip the board here, if we flip the board, like this is a bad move for white, for example. You don't want to be doing that. So you want to be very careful about moving your F pawn. It opens up your king to attacks. It weakens your king. Okay. And then another thing that we went over is Well, I didn't really like this knight d7 move because it kind of blocks your bishop. It's not like a huge blunder, but because you did move it to g6, which I do like as the follow-up move, to b6 rather. But I think there could have been better options like knight g4 or yeah, knight c6. Again, with this queen move, I would recommend taking the bishop because bishops are usually worth slightly more than a knight. So it's a good opportunity to just take the bishop. It also takes this bishop is kind of in your face. It takes away kind of one of white's attacking pieces. So I would recommend just taking the bishop there. Again, I don't really like the c6 move because it's moving a pawn when you should be developing your minor pieces. And then I think you did fine here. Okay, yeah, here you just dropped a piece, so that's just because you moved a little bit too quickly. So just take your time before you move. Always check that it cannot be recaptured. And then it was pretty much over once you lost your queen. It's kind of hard to come back from that. So hopefully those tips help you. So this was my first video of this series. It was a little rough around the edges, but hopefully it helps you and some other people. And if anyone is interested in direct private coaching, one-on-one coaching, you can shoot me a message and we can talk about that. Okay, thanks for watching. I'm going to record another video right now.